Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Chilltown Hoops. I'm your host, Jermaine. The youngsters call me OG. My friends call me J-Dub. Let's get to it. So we all knew it was coming. It's not a surprise. The Lakers have relieved Frank Vogel of his head coaching duties, and one, it was warranted, considering the defensive-minded coach that he is, and two, I think that he's actually happy about it. I don't think that it's something that he's really tore up about. I think he may be a little disappointed considering all the injuries that happened during the season, and they really didn't get a shot to defend what was theirs. I mean, last year Anthony Davis got hurt, James was out for 2 months, so they really didn't get a chance. And then this year, this roster was really poorly constructed. And there's no getting around it. If you look at this roster, Anthony Davis, THT, and James are the only guys that are on the roster this year that were on the roster last year. Everybody else is new. And with that being said, this team defensively, not only were they one of the worst teams in the game defensively, they were at the bottom of the league. I think they were ranked 27th in the league defensively. They were one of the worst rebounding teams in the game. They were one of the worst defending against assists. So when you're not defending against assists, that means that we get the ball wherever we want, and we play make, and we basically get in whatever we want. Whatever we want, we get it. And that means that there's no ball pressure on the perimeter. There's no hands moving. There's no action. Defensively, there's no communication. We're just getting whatever we want. Rebounding, they're one of the worst rebounding teams in the game, which is ironic considering Anthony Davis is one of the better rebounders in the game. Dwight Howard was one of the better rebounders in the game. DeAndre Jordan was one of the better rebounders in the game. But hence the term was. I think that Dwight Howard retires after this season. I think he's over. He looks like he's laboring. He doesn't look effective at all. DeAndre Jordan actually looks like he's had a resurgence in Philadelphia, but he just looks like he's been used differently there than he was in Los Angeles. With all of that being said, it's not that difficult as a big to rebound and defend. Especially if that's your mantra. That's what you do. I rebound and I defend. When Frank Vogel was in Indiana, he first got the job, they were one of the worst defensive teams in the game. His first year. They improved every year after that. Every year after that, they went from a middle-of-the-road defensive team to a top 10 defensive team to the best defensive team in the game. And I think that was largely due to the fact that they believed in his philosophy. They believed in who he was. He was a young coach. He was fiery. And those guys believed in what he was doing. That first year with the Lakers, that team, the way it was constructed, I don't think that he really had to do much. There really wasn't much that he had to do with that unit. It was one of those situations where, here are the keys to the Ferrari, don't crash it. It's gassed up. It doesn't have a lot of miles on it. Just don't crash it. And I think that he did a good job in not crashing it. And I think that he got himself screwed up last season when Anthony Davis got hurt, when James got hurt. Because now, and this isn't to take away from who Frank Vogel is as a coach, because I believe Frank Vogel can coach. But I think a lot of the stuff that he had planned revolved around Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And with those guys out of the lineup, you screwing up everything that we're doing. That means that I got to completely revamp my plan. And that's difficult to do when you rely on somebody that much. This isn't one of those, all right, next man up situations. Not in this particular situation. It's not. So I do think Frank Vogel will be a head coach again. I think he lost that team. In addition to them getting injured, I think he lost that team. I think the addition of Russ, as good as Russ was, we're talking about a guy outside of scoring, he basically led the Lakers in everything. He was their best rebounder. He was their best distributor. He led them in everything. But it just wasn't a good fit. And because it wasn't a good fit, it looked bad. I don't think that they bring back the same unit, but I do think that they're going to try to move on from Russ this summer and see what they can get for him. But this situation is going to be really interesting. And with that being said, since we're on the subject of interesting, it's the playoffs, man. It is the playoffs. The playoffs are going on. Absolutely. Let's do it. So the matchups that I'm interested in are all of them, but the ones that I'm interested in the most, I'm really interested in this Brooklyn-Cleveland game. And the reason why I'm interested in this Brooklyn-Cleveland game because it's a big test for Cleveland defensively. Cleveland is a top 5 defensive team. They got one of the better rim protectors in Jared Allen. I don't know if he's going to go during this game. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, but they got one of the better rim protectors in the game. They got one of the better interior defenders. They got 2 of the better rim protectors in the game because Evan Mobley's in the top 10 in the league in block shots. So they got 2 of the best rim protectors in the game. They got 2 of the better defensive players in the post in the game. And this is going to be a big test for them defensively. Garland having to deal with Kyrie Irving. There's no way you could stop Kyrie Irving. I don't think. I don't think that there's a way to stop him. There are plenty of guys in the league that, like, once they get going, you just really have no shot at stopping them. So the question is how are we going to be able to slow these guys down? How are we going to be able to slow Kevin Durant down? How are we going to be able to slow Kyrie Irving down? Or do we just slow the rest of these guys down and eat their production? Because with Cleveland being a top 5 defensive team, if we could keep this game in the low 90s and early 100s, they got a shot to win. If this game is in the 115 to 120, no. Because that means that they're playing the way Brooklyn wants to play. That means fast. That means loose. And that means that Brooklyn is getting a lot of shots. That means that they're getting whatever they want on the perimeter. And they're getting whatever they want going to the basket. And we don't want that because what you're doing is that you're eliminating your opportunity to win. With Brooklyn getting Andre Drummond, which I said this, months ago, I think he gives them a dynamic that they didn't have, and that's a glass cleaner. That's a dirty work guy because I didn't think that Blake Griffin was it. I didn't think that LaMarcus Aldridge was it. I thought that those guys were not even marginal. I thought that they were less than that. And I thought that they needed another dirty work guy. And getting him, I think he gives them that big man, that muscle that they didn't have. And I think that he's going to give them an opportunity to win. Absolutely. But when I think about Cleveland, and when I think about their dirty work guys, they got a bunch of those guys. You know, Kevin Love's been playing as well as any 6th man in the game, with the exception of Tyler Hero, of course. But Kevin Love is absolutely in the conversation for being 6th man of the year. One of the better dirty work guys in the game. One of the better rebounders in the game. And he stretches the defense. I really wasn't feeling initially the Markin signing. I just wasn't. Because I thought that he was going to screw up Okoro's development. But Okoro is an energy guy. And he thrives off what they do in transition. And it worked. It absolutely worked. I think that they got a really good shot at I think that Cleveland's got a really good shot at beating Brooklyn. Everybody is just writing Cleveland off, and Brooklyn's going to beat them, and they're going to end up in the first round against the Boston Celtics. But I think that Cleveland's got a really good shot at beating them. I'm really interested to see this game. I would not be surprised at all if that happened. I'm not a big fan of the play-in tournament. I've never really been a big fan of the play-in tournament. There's not much that you can sell me on that a ninth place team, even a ninth place team maybe, especially a ninth place team that 1 or 2 games out of the playoffs, we might be a playoff team. A 10th place team, you can't sell me as a playoff team. No. You cannot sell me that a 10th place team is a playoff team. Add that to the fact that I've been working this hard all season long. As a 10th place team and a 10th place team comes in and they're able to knock out a 7th place team who's been in the 6-7 spot, 5-6-7 spot all season long. And a 10th place team comes in and knocks them out. I'm just not a fan of that at all. I think the play-in tournament is a yeah, I just think it's not a sham, but I'm just not a fan of it at all. I think that we already have a play-in tournament. You got 82 games. If you can't get in the playoffs within 82 games, you're not a playoff team. It's that simple, no doubt about it. So that's the game that I'm interested in the most. We'll do this again real soon because it's the playoffs, and we'll talk a lot more about the rest of these teams. But until then, take it light, but take it.